What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fandom Talk. We are back here with you guys this week going over some of the hottest topics in all of the entertainment industry. I got my man Kevin Garland from Hustler Photography here. What's going on, Kevin?
Hey, what's up, man? Happy to be here. Happy to be back.
Awesome, man. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. First thing on the list, just been announced that Teenage Groot is going to be in Infinity War. Now, this puzzles me a little bit because I'm thinking that Groot was going to be some type of help, but we have to look at the timeline. Apparently, Infinity War is going to come off right after, the events of Guardians 2, if I'm not mistaken, especially for Groot to still be in teenage form. I look at Groot as being somebody that will be able to help in the fray, help in the fight, help in the battle. But right now, I don't see Groot doing anything but maybe being a comic relief or some type of small mission, or I don't know. I just don't see Groot being any help. What are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Well, I think you have to look at Spider-Man and look at what they're looking at teenagers to be able to do. Now, there's a big misconception that's out here in the world right now. Many people think at the end of Guardians 2 you saw Teen Groot. That's not Teen Groot. Let me back up and give you some comments here from the director. James Gunn has said, this is a Q&A interview he did back in May. Another minor misconception is that people think that's Teen Groot at the end of the movie, Gunn explained, and I understand why. It's actually adolescent Groot. I would call him tween Groot, or we would call him adolescent Groot. He's not quite a teenager yet. Okay, so our only interaction with teenagers in the MCU has been Spider-Man, and we see that he's can be pretty formidable. Hasn't really grown into his power set yet, but still he's on his way. So I think we're going to see a bigger Groot, a little bit more, a little bit scrappier Groot. So I actually think you might get the help you're looking for from Groot.
Okay, that's some great clarification because I hadn't heard that. And just like James Gunn said, you can understand why, because in that teenage stage, you don't want to do this to nobody. Tell you, you start off like, yeah, you need to clean all this up, and he's like, yeah, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious. So good to get some clarification on that, and hopefully he will be some help in the fight. So another thing we're going to talk about today is the first look at Cable, and boy, did we get something special. I have no complaints about this look. I have no complaints about the actor. I know we all had our preferences, Stephen Lang, David Harbour from Stranger Things. A lot of people wanted a lot of different actors to play Cable, but Josh Brolin stepped up, and of course Josh Brolin is also Thanos, who brings somebody else who's crossing over from company to company, still working with Marvel though. But Josh Brolin looks amazing. Everything looks comic accurate. Now some people are looking for those big shoulder pads with all the extra stuff that we saw in the 90s, but this looks good to me. This looks really, really good to me. And they keep straying away these X-Men style movies. They keep running away from the good old classic blue and yellow costumes. Kevin, I don't know when we're going to get a chance to see that, but what are your thoughts on the first look at Cable?
I think Josh Brolin looks great. Now everybody had their pick and chooses. I have always thought Cable was going to be a big guy, but there's not really, like I'm talking about the size of the rock is what I would want for Cable, okay? Right now, there's always an unknown actor, somebody that's out there really getting it in. There are a lot of big guys out there, like the Mountain from Game of Thrones and all these other guys you have out there that really fit the bill. But you have to really sit back and look at it. Do you want a guy that's 6'6", that may not have the acting chops to go up with Ryan Reynolds, or do you want to get a guy that's smaller who's got the acting chops to really give you Cable, and not only Cable, but Cable along with Ryan Reynolds? So I'm all on board for Josh Brolin. Anything that guy does, I'm on board because he's a great actor. I mean, and this is a role that people forget about, but go back and look at him in Men in Black 3 and what he did playing young Tommy Lee Jones in that movie. It's hilarious, the impression of that guy he did. You know what I mean? So it's great. I think the guy's a great actor, and there's a bunch of other movies you can call out. Now let's talk about Cable specifically and the way he looks. There are a couple different things on this costume that you have to be mindful of. And Malcolm, you hit one of those things that people were looking for, were the big shoulder pads. Okay, now let's keep it in perspective. Now you're bringing this 2D comic book character into the real world. No soldier anywhere in the world is going to wear those big shoulder pads because they're targets, okay? So you have to remember, he's trying to be tactical. Now, if you look at the costume, he does have the patches and the extra pockets that, you know, those characters in the early 90s are known for. So I think that's pretty cool. The second thing is look at the arm and then go all the way up his arm and look at his neck. He has what looks like the techno-organic virus that he was infected with in the comic books. Okay, that's a really cool thing. By them including that, it could mean that this thing could cross over so at some point with Apocalypse. Okay, I know he seems to be dead at the end of that last X-Men movie, but it's Apocalypse, so I'm just saying he may not be. And if you know how he gets that virus or whatnot, you know Apocalypse is a huge part of that. He's a time traveler, you know, so Cable goes from different times and whatnot. And the last thing I'll call out, so I won't be too long, is the teddy bear. Now, those of us that have read the books, you understand that Cable was in the future raising Rachel Summers, which is, you know, the mutant messiah, if you will. She comes back and she, you know, takes over the Phoenix Force, and she's a very powerful mutant or whatnot. I'm not saying they're going to touch on all that in this movie. I'm saying with him being a time traveler and having that teddy bear, he may have her hidden somewhere in the future, or at some point he may mention raising a little girl, and that could be who he's talking about. So I thought the images they put out there gave you a whole lot without even saying a word. So I think it's great.
Okay. And I share the same sentiment. You know, it looks amazing. You got to give it up to Ryan Reynolds. You know, this man has pushed the envelope with Deadpool, making sure that we see what the fans need to see and see what we want to see. Now, next story we got is something that really, really got me excited. And, you know, normally we're talking about the superheroes and comics and all that type of stuff, but I'm going to divert a little bit and talk about King of the Hill. Apparently, Fox is in conversation. There's nothing concrete. They're in conversation with Mike Judge and Greg Daniels on reviving King of the Hill. One of the things and reasons they said they felt like this was a great decision was because of what's going on in America today. Just imagine Hank and Bill and Baumhauer and Dale in the alley talking about Donald Trump. Just imagine that conversation. A few beers, you know, Bobby riding up down shooting the bike with Con Jr. And you just imagine that conversation. Imagine what Cotton, Hank's dad, would have to say about Donald Trump. You know, I believe he'd probably vote for him. That's my thought process. But Kevin, what do you think about his possible King of the Hill revival?
You know, King of the Hill is one of those shows that you don't get, and this is still this from my brother Jeremy Branch over at Be Terrible Productions. It's something he said the other day I thought was spot on about King of the Hill. It's not like Family Guy where you get a laugh every 30 seconds. It's not, you know, a mile a minute with the jokes and all that. It's just a good old American slice of life type story. You know what I mean? And I think that regardless of color, gender, or whatever, you have those people that live in that neighborhood where Hank lives in Arlen, Texas, are people that you know, especially, you know, Malcolm and I being Southerners and actually being from, you know, a city, and actually him living on one end of one long street and I live on the other end of one long street, if you will. You know, you have that neighborhood and you get that vibe from it. I think King of the Hill was a great show. I think it got a little long in the tooth after a while. But anything will get long in the tooth doing as many episodes as they did when it's a slice of life type show. It's not so wild where you're going to have Hank doing ridiculous things. Like everything on that show was, you know, comparable to real life. So I would love some more King of the Hill for it to come back and be fresh. My only thing is I just don't want them to run it in the ground and come back because nostalgia is all the rage right now. You know what I mean? Like, if they're coming back for a limited run and they're going to do this and that, I'm cool with it. But don't bring that show back and tarnish it if you can't do it right and breathe some new life into it. So I'm on board, though, because Greg Daniels and Mike Judge are there. So I'm on board. I'm just a little bit hesitant, you know?
Yeah, it's getting to that point where we're seeing nostalgia taking over. I mean, it's apparent. It's visible. It's there. It's easy to see that there are no more great original ideas, so let's just go to what worked in the past. And I'm okay with it because that's most of the stuff that's coming back is stuff I grew up with. You know, even let's look at Hulu. I believe it's this month or next month, Hulu has finally obtained the right from ABC to show all of the TGIF shows. They're going to be on Hulu. We're talking about Hey Go Mr. Cooper, Boy Meets World, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Family Matters, Step by Step. All of that is going to be on Hulu. That's going to open the door for something. You know, they've already brought back Boy Meets World. They did 3 seasons of a show called Girl Meets World, where it was by his daughter. And that show was so nostalgic, man. It was all in your nose nostalgia. They just brought everybody back from the first series. You know, I would like to see, you know, Family Matters, nah. Step by Step, nah. Give me Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Bring that back. Look at That's So Raven. Raven got a new show now. Everything is coming back. Everything is coming back, and I'm cool with it. You know, what are your thoughts on the whole nostalgia piece?
When it's done right, I think it's okay, and I think like Girl Meets World or whatnot. Didn't watch a minute of the show, but if they got 3 seasons out of it, they had an audience, and that's pretty cool. And what people don't realize is that those Disney shows like that, they're not made to go super long. Those kids, you know, catch that show at 12, they stay with it till they're 15, and then they're off to something else. So a lot of their shows don't go, you know, super long. I know you have exceptions to every rule, so I'm not saying that every show on there is 3 seasons or whatever. I'm just saying that today's age, you hear 3 seasons, you may not think the show was successful, but they may have only had an idea for 3 seasons for that. And I only say that to say, hey, if you're going to bring something back for nostalgia purposes or whatever, it may not last as long as the first run or whatever, but maybe they got an interesting, you know, story to tell and bring it back. And when these things for nostalgia are done the right way, I think they can be quite enjoyable, you know, but it's all got to be done the right way. And I think it's great that Hulu is going to have the TGI Friday lineup or whatever, because those were good TV shows that you can put on that kids these days can get into them and they can watch them, and it's family-friendly stuff. And also, you can see where today's sitcoms borrowed a lot from these shows. You know, it's like you want to go back and see these episodes. Like, this is where some of this stuff originated and where it started at. So I think it's cool. You know, I don't think it's really hurting anything.
Most definitely. Now, Kevin, I think this next topic is something that you really might get deep into. I want you to start off with this one. This Disney leaving Netflix in 2019. And I always love the way you expound on streaming services and their goods and their bad. So what are your thoughts on Disney leaving Netflix? I'm going to let you start it off.
Okay, so we've had this running thread, and Malcolm, you know, me, and Jeremy usually, you know, dive in, and we've had some really good conversations the last couple of weeks about streaming services as well. It's a couple of different things at play here. Now, I know there's been a lot of different talks about negotiations and what's really going on, and what it boiled down to is that Disney is going to start their own streaming service. Now, what tends to happen is we tend to forget, because I don't watch anything on like Disney XD. You have, you know, the little teen Disney channel where they do all the sitcoms or whatever. Where actually, you know, we have a guy that I'm watching the band at Alabama State with, Lazarus Wyndham. Lazarus is on one of those shows right now. Shout out to Lazarus. You have to understand that when you create a streaming service, so not many companies could do this like Disney's about to do it. I'm going to tie all this up. They have all their catalog of TV shows, which includes that, you know, Girl Meets World show, by the way, That's So Raven and everything. You can have all of that. All of their cartoon shows they own the rights to, like the Mighty Avengers and Earth's Mightiest Heroes and the Spider-Man show and Spider-Man vs. Sinister Six. You have Star Wars Rebels. You have all these hit TV shows they have, right? Hours and hours of entertainment. Then you have the whole Disney catalog of movies. I'm talking Fantasia from 1940 or whatever, all the way up now to Zootopia. Disney has the catalog to launch a streaming service that people will definitely be happy with. So when you look at it, you say, okay, we're over here on Netflix. We got this deal signed, but Netflix is getting all the acclaim. People are signing up because they know, hey, we got the Avengers, Civil War's over here. all our Netflix Marvel TV shows over here. You know, if you flip to the kids side of Netflix, you got all these movies and stuff over here. So they're saying, hey, wait a minute. People love Disney. They love us. They want to come watch our stuff. We can go over here and create our own thing and get that money. Because when they launch the service, let's say it's $10 a month, I'm going to get it. You know? So that's what it is. Now, with Netflix, on the other hand, yes, I'm pretty sure a lot of people watch a lot of the Disney programming on Netflix, but you have to look at them, too, and say, hey, they're making their own programming at this point. They don't necessarily need Disney, and they've been moving in that direction for a while. You look at the streaming platforms out here, almost all of these streaming platforms, Hulu, Amazon, and Netflix all create their own content. And that is because if you depend on these deals with these large companies, at some point they're going to pull out. Or some point something else is going to happen. And you have to be able to sustain yourself and create your own thing. So I think this is a thing where Disney has so much content and it's so popular right now, and they have such a catalog, they're saying, hey, people will pay money to have access to this, you know? So we're going to break off and do our own thing. I don't think it's a thing about, I don't think it's anything other than just money, really. I think when you take a movie like Doctor Strange and Civil War are on Netflix right now, if I'm not mistaken, right? You take those films and you drop them on Netflix, they're going to get a whole lot of views or whatever. But those of us that are into that stuff, we're going to chase it and find it wherever it is. You know, we really want that. We're gonna go find it. So I honestly and truly feel like it's a money thing, and Disney sees that, and they know guys like us are gonna subscribe and go get the service because we want to be able to have this and that or whatever. And also, it opens up the door for them to create content just for that medium and just for that channel. Now I can release content, and I don't have to go to the movie theaters, or I don't have to compete with your other network shows that come on or whatever. Because right now, the only show that I know of in the U.S. that's going to be a joint thing is this new Star Trek show, where they're going to put after the episode airs, they're going to put it up on Netflix like weekly or whatever. But if you think about it, none of these Disney's not producing a show, you know, that's like, okay, it's on my Disney Channel and then the episode goes up the next week on Netflix so everybody else can catch it. You have to wait till the season is completely done. Now you don't have to do that. So that's just kind of my spiel or whatever. I hope I brought some light, shed some light on what's going on.
And you already hear a lot of people throwing it down like, oh no, ain't nobody gonna pay the money for that. Nobody's gonna pay the money for that. Nobody's gonna pay the money for that. That's a lie. Because if people go to Disney World and pay $50 for a plate of food, and the only thing on there is regular eggs and sausage and fruit and a Mickey Mouse shaped pancake, you can't tell me they won't pay for some months for this subscription service for Disney. If they do that, they're going to buy that. It's a done deal. It is a done deal. People spend cool amounts of money at Disney World on a daily basis. And a streaming service with everything. Now, one thing that was not said, one thing you mentioned was the big catalog. Are the Marvel Netflix series going to go that route? Are they going to leave them on Netflix? Are the big Marvel movies going to go there? Or are they going to leave them on Netflix? And could possibly, you know, the cartoon animated stuff, totally understandable. But with this being a streaming service categorized as Disney, are they going to move those type of movies in that direction? What do you think about that breakdown?
Okay, so let's back up and talk about the Marvel TV shows or whatever. Since this deal is going down in August of 19.
Yeah, 19.
I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, not August, but the year 19 or whatever, in 2019.
Right.
Okay, whatever that contract is for that show will be whatever. So let's just say they got to when they start renewing seasons or whatever, they'll figure it out. So if, let's say right now, because you know they kind of go by season, and they'll say, hey, well, we ordered 5 or 6 seasons of Daredevil. Well, then those shows are probably going to air on Netflix. Now, you and I both know that most of the time these shows go season by season, whether they get picked up or not, they get renewed. I honestly and truly think that they might pull those shows over to Disney. They could. Now, this is the other question we have to get answered that we don't know the answer to. If how are they going to portray this platform? Because you got to remember, some of the stuff on the Netflix shows won't really fly on the Disney type channel. Now, some of that stuff on Netflix is rated R for their shows. So they may not pull those shows and just let them live over there because they may not have a channel that's going to, a streaming service that's going to support that type of content. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you pull Daredevil from Netflix and you put it on the Disney streaming service and now Daredevil is PG, the show is over with. And they won't do that. So I could see them maybe leaving those Netflix shows and letting them live there. So it's a possibility. Now, movie-wise, when Pixar spends all that money to make a movie, it's going to the theaters. But I'm just talking about where it's going to live after its theater run. Because if you look at let's just say it's $10 a month, right? So it's $120 a year to buy that. That's 5 Blu-rays you'll buy throughout the year. So think about it. Instead of buying 5 Blu-rays at $20 a piece the first day they come out, so that's usually about $20. Instead of buying those 5, you just spend that $10 a month, and you and your child have unlimited Disney entertainment. People are gonna buy that service like it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
Just like you said, Malcolm, it's gonna sell. People go to Disney World and spend $100 a day for tickets. They spend money on the food or whatever. Like, you have to look outside of what you would pay for in your situation, look at the rest of the world and say, okay, what are they going to do? So, yeah, people are going to get this service. But I do think that the Netflix shows will probably stay where they are, and some of the newer content will be on that Disney service. I just think that's the way it's going to be.
And I can definitely see it breaking down like that as well. Like, I personally feel like they'll leave the Marvel shows where they are because of the type of shows that they are. You wouldn't want your child flipping through the Disney service and wind up on the episode when Kingpin smashes the man's head with a Cadillac Escalade door. You wouldn't want your child running across that. So I personally feel like they're going to leave them where they are because of the type of show that they are. Now, one of the last topics we want to jump on today is some news from Lionsgate. Lionsgate has just said that they're looking to make more Hunger Games and Twilight movies. Now, I don't know about Kevin, but I can't tell you nothing about Twilight, but I can tell you something about some Hunger Games. I can't tell you nothing about Twilight. Kevin, did you watch Twilight movie?
I did. I've seen all of them.
Okay. I'm gonna let you run off Twilight, and I'll take Hunger Games. So, with Lionsgate saying that they can make more Twilight movies, where do you think they can go in that direction?
Twilight is supposed to be a love story, okay? And yes, it's set in the backdrop of a world that has supernatural beings and werewolves or whatever, what have you. So, and Edward Cullen or whatever has lived hundreds of years, okay? There are several different stories you could tell with this whole series or whatever. The problem becomes everybody fell in love with Twilight because of Stephenie Meyer's books, okay? So when that first movie dropped, it was huge because the audience was already built in because they had these characters in mind. If you remember, back when they started casting Kristen Stewart and everybody else, people were the tweens were in love with it because those characters, Robert Pattinson and Taylor Lautner, were exactly what she wrote in the book according to those tweens. That's what they were seeing in their head or whatever. So you have a built-in audience for these properties. I don't know about them trying to build this thing from scratch or whatever. I don't think you get the same return on investment that you would have gotten before. Now, I will tell you this. If you told me they were going to make a Twilight, Netflix series or something like that, I would be like, okay, I could see them going in that direction. Movies, I'm an executive. I don't know if I'll touch this with a 10-foot pole. You have to come in with some extraordinary type story, or you would have to get the original author, Stephenie Meyer, to come in and say, I've got a new story, check this out, and this is how we're going to do it. Then I would listen. But if you're talking about people just taking her writing and going on somewhere, I don't know. And the other thing is, too, It's not that she's this great writer and that her work, can't be touched or whatever. I'm just saying sometimes somebody is able to capture the magic of a world that other people can't capture because they don't know what she was trying to create or how she created it. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Now, I'll take the Hunger Games side, and there was one more topic I forgot that we definitely have to get on. I'll take the Hunger Games side. I can see more Hunger Game movies. What I want to see from more Hunger Game movies? I want to see the rebellion. I want to see the war that started the Hunger Games, period. We always hear about when the districts rebelled and District 13 took over. Let's get some prequels in. Let's get some backstory. Let's get to looking way back into the beginning of all that, when President Snow wasn't even president yet. That I can easily see that being done with Hunger Games. Like that definitely, I think that's the only route to go is prequel, because you basically finished up the story in the third movie. President Snow killed. She went on to continue on living with Peter. They had children. But let's go back to see how all of this got here in the first place. Even before Katniss Everdeen was a name. So that's the route that I can see Hunger Games going. Now, like I say, as far as Twilight is concerned, you're absolutely right. That's like somebody taking the rights to J.K. Rowling and saying they're going to do something new with Harry Potter. No. She needs to be in every little board meeting. Like I said, that magic. That's something that came out of her mind. It didn't come out from some executives at a table. So, yeah, there could be some more Twilight movies, but as long as they're warranted towards that same direction. Now, on the other end, what do you think about Hunger Games?
In the action-adventure side of things, I think there's a lot that can be done with that property and a lot of things that you can dive into. And I don't want to shortchange Twilight or whatever. I'm just saying that this thing here it's a love story, and you need to sell the audience on whoever the characters are being in love and what are their odds or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's what that's about. With the Hunger Games, like you said, you could go to, so if you wanted to, you got 2 different ways to go. You could show the rebellion and kind of what happens, but that kind of puts you back with Katniss Everdeen and whatever. Or you can rewind it before they had President Snow, and you can take it back to the games where Haymitch won, which was Woody Harrelson's character. Yeah. You can go with a young Haymitch, and you can say, okay, this is what happened. This was brutal. It was raw. It was violent or whatever. And you can make something out of that I think would travel well in the action-adventure realm or whatnot, and then, maybe go from there. Neither one of these are properties that I think are going to knock it out of the box office when you start changing the original cast and start trying to tell these stories that weren't created, by the original folks. But I do see maybe a TV show thing for Twilight where you can kind of get away with that. And sometimes those TV shows based off movies fail, or a lot of times they do. Or I can see the Hunger Games, carrying on an action franchise where you maybe strip the budget down and not try to make this $100 million movie, but make a $50 million movie, and maybe you can have something pretty cool. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Now, the topic I said that I knew it was something I was trying to remember what it was Netflix purchasing Millarword. And you just made mention of TV shows, being redone. And we look at the Millarword dialogue or the categories that he has, or the what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word, but everything that he has under that belt. The different graphic novels, including one Kingsman. So the first thing that comes to my mind that I would love for Netflix to do is to give us a Wanted series. That's the best place for it to be. That is the best place for a Wanted series. I feel like Wanted was a movie that came out and a lot of people wanted more from it. I know I did. I saw that movie several times though. I feel like that's the first thing that they should work on. Work on something that's notable, that everybody knows, and then dive into those other projects that he has under the Millarword. So, Kevin, what do you think about the whole acquisition? If I'm not mistaken, this is Netflix's first acquisition of a property.
Yeah. So the way I understand is, man, is they have went in and got the comics too. If I'm not mistaken, the way the deal was structured. I'm not just talking about the rights. I'm talking about the comics from him. So I'm not 100% sure on that. That's something I read, and I want to clarify. I don't know why Netflix was going to comics, but I'm going to check that. I'm going to fact check that. So anyway, it's fantastic, and I'll tell you why. Anybody who's ever read one of these stories, and I'll use Kick-Ass as an example, okay? Kick-Ass is violent, is gritty. There's a lot of stuff that happens in their book that just makes you just like, oh, my God, I got to turn the page, right? Well, when you look at Daredevil Season 2, you look at The Punisher, you look at the, look at the Kingpin, look at that jailhouse fight scene and stuff that went on or whatever, and then you flip open the pages of a Mark Millar comic book or whatever, then or a graphic novel, you realize that that's where his stuff needs to be. It needs to be somewhere where it's uninhibited, it's untouched, and you can have the freedom to take this, as far left as you need to go to get the point across. So whereas trying to go out and acquire another set of PG-13 properties that are going to try to compete with Justice League and the tracks that Marvel set down and everything that, Warner Brothers and DC has going on, you go the other direction. You say, okay, well, Logan and Deadpool came out, rated R, superhero films, if you will, that did great at the box office. There's not that many of them that's rated R, so they're in that pantheon with the first two Blades, so they're over there by themselves. And you say, okay, well, what's working for us over here on Netflix? Well, everybody loves how gritty we can get. It's not that we're gritty all the time, but we can go there. And you look at it and you say, wow, look at some of this stuff this guy is doing, and we can do this over here. It'll be received well. Oh, and by the way, we can create our own connected universe that we don't have to talk to anybody about. We don't have to ask for the rights for this. We don't have to do anything. We own it all. Not all Mark Millar stuff is in the same universe or even connected, but they have that ability to do that. It's the smartest thing they could have done. Smartest thing they could have done.
And I look forward to it. Like I said, the most I'm looking forward to is hopefully they can do something with Wanted and bring that back into the forefront, bring that back into the light. Kingsman doing pretty well movie-wise. That movie, Kingsman Golden Circle, is coming out next month. So let's just see what they decide to do in this area. Like you said Kick-Ass, that was a more gritty, and I didn't know that because when you see the movie, it's more PG-13 like. So to really dive into the reality of what it actually is would be a little bit more better, especially for a place like Netflix. So, but guys, we really appreciate you joining in with us today, having some great conversations about some great topics. Kevin, where can everybody find you?
Hey, you can find me on Facebook with Kevin Garlington, or you can find me on Instagram at HubsterPicks.
Most definitely, guys. If you don't know who we are, we're Fandoms Anonymous. That's FANDOMS, ANONYMOUS. We're all over social media. Right here on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future videos. Also, head over there to Facebook, join our group where we have discussions each and every single day, and hit the like on the Facebook fan page. Also, head over to Instagram where we're at Fandom_Anonymous17. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, and or ideas, please email me at fandoms17@gmail.com. We got a lot of stuff coming up this weekend. We will be at Gump CityCon here in Montgomery, Alabama. And the one and only Walter Jones will be there, the original Black Ranger. So we will be in the building. Come see us. Come by our table at the Alcazar Shrine here in Montgomery, Alabama. But, guys, as I always say, if there is anything else, thanks for watching, and have a good one.